If you woke up as a millionaire, which is the first thing you would buy? A house. Definitely. Buy a house. Buy a car. After a house and decent car, say at most you spend $700. 000 on those two. I'm left with $300. 000. Then just don't make any other huge purchases. I'll work the same job I have. And I'll go golfing every day of my life. The only bills I will have to worry about are insurance and basic water, electricity, Wi-Fi sort of stuff, which my job would pay for. It would make money so much easier to save with a house payment and a car payment not on the list. You could get that million back twice as fast as you could before. This actually happened to my best friend a couple of months ago. Went from paycheck to $5 million overnight after a lot of hard work. First thing he did was pay off his mom's house without her knowing, then surprised her with it. Then he called me to tell me he's buying us a house in New England. When I asked what this meant, he listed off all of his closest friends that he'd be giving keys to it to use whenever we wanted. He still lives in his studio apartment and drives his old Jeep. Dude has a heart of gold. A plot of land in the mountains and build a cabin on it. Hopefully with a stream or something to fish, swim and kayak around. A herd of goats as nature's lawnmower. A donkey to FCK up anything that wants at those goats. Some chickens for delicious eggs and meat. Nice sized garden with some fruit and nut trees around the property. 2 or 3 lazy porch dogs. Few beehives to pollinate and get some sweet honey. Wood shop. And top it all off with a nice wind chime. Investments. First thing I do is move my money into my portfolio and build out my strategy. If done right, I may have enough in principle to live off my earnings and retire early. But even if it's not enough for that, like if it's only a couple million, I can let that grow and keep my job and just retire early. Having that safety net would be awesome. TF2 golden frying pan. It's funny reading through the comments. First comment was long and thoughtful about reinvesting and building out portfolios and so on. Then next comment. Fuck it. Blowing it all on a golden frying pan. I like your style. Beef jerky. Shit's expensive, yo. I'll buy you some off Amazon. Send me a DM with it on your wishlist and I'll have it sent to you. Edit. Since it's your cake day and I love beef jerky and people who like it, I will pay of all my debts and the debts of my family. Then get my son's college fund jump started. Buying myself out of debt was my first thought. Just to be able to breathe free without all that weight bearing down on me. Can't even begin to think what I'd do buy afterwards. Probably a steak breakfast crunch wrap from Taco Bell. Bell's breakfast is underrated. Second would be my student debt. If you are in the US, I'd sit on that student debt for a bit in case Biden forgives $50K. I mean, I know you're a millionaire and all, but $50K is $50K. A new car. A place to live. And a lawyer to fight for my children. That's rough, my dude. Hang in there. Nothing more f***ed up than to have to fight for your kids. Medical necessities for my fam who has cancer cause bitches insurance won't cover them. A house and car for my co-worker. She is literally the sweetest person I have ever met and she deserves the world for her and her kids. She doesn't deserve how she's treated by the customers and I wish I was able to give her the life that I grew up with. Pizza. I've been wanting a thin crust veggie pizza for ages. Couldn't justify spending the money for takeout. An animal rescue shelter. Especially a death row animal shelter. They are always in need of funding and volunteers. Perfect. My first thought was a house because renting sucks. But then I saw your post and amended mine to a house with an animal rescue attached. And it would probably be dogs and cats only since that's where most of my knowledge is. A cheap, minimalist house. Plus the biggest, most decked out gym ever. This is depressing. Where I live, Vancouver, BC, $1 million buys you an apartment. Or an unbelievably grimy, tear-down house. I mean, I'm not going to turn down $1 million. But all that means is that to have a nice house, I'd only have to float a $500k mortgage, a sensory deprivation tank and a case of liquid ketamine. As a millionaire, skip the tank and move straight to a spa room. Much less chance of you bumping a wall or something when your space is larger, enhancing the experience. I consider myself a minimalist, so not much. I like to pay for experiences like a nice movie or a great place to travel. Perhaps a boring answer, but investments. Buying a house is great, but it's not something you should do on a whim. So it's almost certainly not the first thing anyone would actually buy. If you buy a good balanced portfolio of investments, you will earn income without putting that $1 million in danger of being frittered away. Then you can feel free to quit your job if you want and take your time to figure out your new life. Because a sudden windfall like that has a tendency to impact people's social and family lives, their mental health, etc. Teeth for my face. After a long battle with drug addiction and homelessness, I made it out alive, but my teeth are an everyday reminder of what I went through, and it totally kills my self-esteem. Unfortunately, it's way too expensive for me to get them fixed. When I read the first part, I thought you meant teeth implanted all over your face and was like, man, that's really metal. But I continued to read and said, now that's really metal. I'm proud of you for what you've built for yourself. You'll get to that point of getting new teeth. There's a lot of places that help former addicts get new teeth, cosmetic procedures, etc. So they don't have constant reminders of that point in their life. I'd Google for places around your area. Close bracket. WinZip. I know this is a joke, but everyone should just use 7-Zip instead. It's free and open source. It's super light and offers support for a lot of archival formats. You don't need to see the activate WinZip windows ever again. Download 7-Zip. Buy 3 Berkshire Hathaway shares and realize that I'm in $30k debt. Services of a wealth management firm. I'm in no way equipped to make my own decisions of this nature, so would turn to an expert. Even if it costs me, I'd rather lower the risk than maximize profits. Because FCK it. I've got at least $1 million. Close bracket. There's a really nice cafe in town that sells breakfast bagels. So probably that. However, there would be several big purchases that would be next on the list. Reasonable sized house would be the first. The services of a lawyer. Then a modest house and a nice used car. I wouldn't want anyone to know I had that much money. People will try to take it from you. Depends how many millions I have. Where I live, 1 mil would get you a 2-bedroom, maybe 2-bath. If it was like 10, a PS5, a house for my parents, and pay my own college grad school tuition and save the rest. Honestly, I just want to replace my broken 3D printer. Man, I can't use a supercar. I don't want a vacation through Europe. 2. Maybe a pair of backup prosthetics in case something happens to my existing prosthetics. A powered wheelchair for days when I'm going to be doing a lot of moving around would be nice. And insurance doesn't cover them for me at all. I'd pay off my sister and brother-in-law's house and taxes for a while. They never say anything to me, but I know that money is tight. Especially because I've got 2 young sons and my sister is in grad school. I don't really need anything for myself. But they've given me so much emotional support over the years, it's only fair. A scientist to experiment how to make spider webs out of CM, so if someone runs from me I can CM them towards me and swing around the world with my peen out, maybe grapple a few hookers. The car that my mum had to sell so that she could pay for our education. She bought it herself and it was her favorite dream car. Still is her dream car. First thing I do when I do make money is buy her back her dream car. I'd buy around a dozen George Bush original paintings and give them to my family for Christmas. Just think it would be funny. Start a gaming company. I think I would do that too after my RV is finished. I'd basically work out of my RV. I have 2 people I can rely on for graphics. One was as a comic artist, and the other a musician. Actually, I know 2 musicians I could rely on. I'd collaborate maybe one other programmer. I'd use Game Maker Studio too. The language is very much like BASIC. But the kinda basic turtle graphics or the C128's BASIC 7.0 wanted to be. I've made some small experiments. But with free time and the ability to program while at the beach between dips, I have 2 games storyboarded out in on a note. A modest home and car. I would set as much aside as I could for my kids' education should they wish to pursue it. After that, a separate fund to ensure my family's well-being should I pass unexpectedly. My grandmother is still alive, so I would make sure she's taken care of in every way possible. After that, if there's any left depending on the amount, I would give it to the NLDAC, National Living Donor Assistance Center. A coffee. It's the morning. I get coffee before I check my bank account. Honestly, if I woke up a millionaire, I probably wouldn't even notice for a few days, not because I have so much money, but since I hardly look at my bank account because I don't want to be sad. I'd buy 2 smallish houses. One for me and one for my GF. I'd get a nice manageable chunk of land too, since she's a professional gardener and I want a large pen for the dogs and an alpaca. I'd probably contact a couple friends from my banking days to make sure I was being savvy. Then I'd plan out debt repayments and investments. Once that's all done, I'd make sure everyone in my family was getting the medical care they need, including myself. I'd take a year off from working to focus on my personal well-being and look into career opportunities I've been too risk-averse to try. Probably pay off my overdraft. Then my credit cards. Then I'd buy a reasonable house in a nice area nearby. Probably pay off my car finance. Might consider paying off my student loan if it works out cheaper. Anything left just stick in the savings for a rainy day. Buy a house for my family and then pamper my cats because I think they deserve it. They've helped me through so much, so it's the least I can do for them. Breakfast. I just woke up rich enough to not show up to work today, and I'm buying myself breakfast. I can buy a cheap house somewhere not too far from everyone I know later. I still have a lease to run out. Now I want waffles. Nothing. $1 million isn't much. $50k a year for 20 years. Then factor inflation, and that average life expectancy for me means that I have far more than 20 years left. Close bracket. First, bank. Then some form of rolling annuity fund. My mom a house. She was awesome as a single mom and she deserves the best I can give her. I wouldn't buy anything first. I'd pay off my debt first and put money in an account for my son for college. Then I would buy land and the blueprints for the house I want and would have my house built with all the fixtures and details I want. I pay off my student debt, my parents' debt, my cousin's debt, and then pay off my car. After that, I will sleep for a week before going back to work while waiting for my job applications to circle back to me. Maybe go to grad school for my PhD. A giant ranch where I could live like Snow White and rehab all the sick or injured wild animals I could. I am so practical it is boring. Get a retirement fund of some sorts and hire a financial advisor. I have no head for money, so playing with stocks is madness. Interest rates are in the toilet currently, so I would find someone to help me with finance. After that, a simple condo in a retirement community. Buy a shit ton of PS5s and Series X's, just to give them away to people who couldn't buy them due to those fuckholes known as scalpers. Then use the remaining wealth to lobby a new law into place that could give scalpers 15+ years in prison. After that, I'd probably use the remaining cash to just get a Big Mac cause FCK helping people. I would buy a camper. My family and I love camping and we've been trying to save for a camper. Then COVID ruined everything. I would totally get a nice C-class camper and book a campground for every weekend next summer. It would be glorious. Probably put enough in the market to secure lifelong returns. Then pay off my family and friends' debts. A honeymoon. Been married 22 years and just haven't managed to pull it off yet. My wife busts her ass every day and really deserves a nice long break. This is Of course. Providing we could actually travel somewhere besides the motel down the road. I am a millionaire. And so far today I have bought nothing. But I did go to the hardware store yesterday and bought wine, to bundle sticks and yard waste for curbside pickup, and fat wood, to cheat at starting fires in the fireplace. It would depend. Having 1 million inches of bank makes you a millionaire. Buying a nice house could take half your wealth in one hit. Having 10 million inches of bank would be a game changer. Having 100 million inches of bank would be enough to help potentially thousands of people and still live a life of luxury. All three make you a millionaire. My financial freedom. I'm paying off all my debts and using the remainder to pay 1 year of rent in advance. And the rest into a savings or bond where it will collect interest. Probably a multitude of hypercard and supercars. I really like cars and wish more than anything I could even see $1 million cars. Pay you to edit the post so that it says Belana. Adopt 3 guys. 2-4 girls. Make Talia steal my DNA to create an assassin baby. Train them in martial arts. Dress up in costumes and go fight crime. Yes. That's what I'd do.